My name's Sonia Dixon and I'm a director at Bluegrass Research. We're a research agency based in the Northeast, and we have extensive experience researching around the topic of smoking cessation and tobacco control in general. What I'd like to share with you today is the findings of a piece of qualitative work we did recently, and I'm going to share my screen now so that you can see some of the slides as I present it. There we go. So the work that we did looked to evaluate the smoke-free app across London amongst users who identify with the LGBTQ+ community. When we have looked at data before around smoke-free app take-up across London, it became quite clear to us that there is an overrepresentation of members of the LGBTQ+ community amongst those taking it up. And we were curious to understand a little bit more about that from their perspective. Why might it be that they have some affinity to the app or its features? So that's what we set out to do. We wanted to understand if there was anything particularly that appealed about it or that worked particularly well for this community, and within that context to look at how the app worked for users across the LGBTQ community. And it's important to say that specifically this work builds on a larger bit of work that we undertook for Stop Smoking London to look at the smoke-free app across a broad cross-section of users. So this work is building on that, but looking at the findings particularly from an LGBTQ perspective. So all of the people that we spoke to 10 people, they were all users of the app, and they were recruited through a pop-up dashboard on the app. They all lived in a London borough, and there was a mix of boroughs within the sample. As I've said, they all identified with the LGBTQ+ community, and they'd all used the app for at least a fortnight by the time we spoke to them. We spoke to them on the telephone, and those interviews lasted anywhere between 20 and 30 minutes, occasionally a little bit longer. So the first thing to say is that there was a very positive response to this community about the app, very fulsome in their praise of it, and many of them said that they felt that their success in quitting, because most of them were still quit at the point of speaking to them, that the success was due to using the app. And much of what they talked about as working well was what we saw in the wider bit of work, and evidence the strengths generally of the app for all users. So that's the fact that it's incredibly convenient. You know, it's there, it's on your phone, people have their phone with them all the time. It's a very tailorable app. It's very easy to customize how it looks and what you use to suit yourself. It's very flexible and can be changed, as I say, to suit your circumstances and your requirements. The fact that it is an app on your phone means that it's ever present. It's a smoking cessation advisor in your pocket, so to speak. And there is no support or advice or distraction. So that works incredibly well when someone has a craving, for example. It's there, and they can either play a little game on it to distract them. They can message the community and say, this is happening, what can I do to help myself? Those sorts of things, and the immediacy of that works incredibly well. It's very intuitive to use. It's an easy app to use, and the fact that it really does have something for everyone. It's got lots of features, lots of different things you can do, lots of different ways you can access support, help, advice within the app. It offers motivation, it offers reward. So there's something there that kind of rings the bell for nearly everybody that we've spoken to across both of the studies that we've done. And importantly, the fact that it's there, the fact that it can offer all of these things does provide a sense of of reassurance that you're not alone. The way the LGBTQ plus users that we spoke to used the app really seemed to match what we saw across the wider user cohort. So that's often built into a daily routine. People talk about it's the first thing they look at, perhaps to check their progress, so many days, so many cigarettes they haven't smoked, so many hours they haven't smoked, so much money they haven't spent. So the tracking function is quite important there. But some people use it on a more ad hoc basis. And in fact, there is, it's very true that as people move through the quit attempt, they possibly use the app a little bit less and less as time goes on, and they gain in confidence. But key features that these people are using, as I said, the tracking functions, community chat was important to those people to get advice, to feel a sense of community, the advisors who are there 24/7, and the coach that's built into the app. So that all reflected very much what we saw across users generally in the wider bit of work, but there were facets and features of the app that perhaps had a different resonance for people in the LGBTQ community, or has a greater relevance to them. And this encouraged both initial take-up, but also continued use and comfort in use, if you like. So we talked to people about how they first heard about the app, and several talked about recommendations. There was various different ways of finding out about the app, including healthcare professionals, including seeking an app out because it was assumed that there would be an app out there for smoking cessation. But that we heard that people got recommendations from within the community, and this has a greater impact for some. We had one user, I remember saying, you know, it just is more meaningful for me if this is recommended by someone from the LGBTQ plus community, because I feel that's more likely to be pertinent to me. And it may well be that there is some sort of recommendation snowballing going on within the LGBT community, which is again enhancing that overrepresentation of the community across users generally. The fact that the app is digital appeals for the usual reasons, you know, that we've talked about already, that it's accessible, it's convenient, it's always there. But for some users, we heard that it provides a route to support that they might otherwise feel is unavailable. We heard about bad experience with healthcare professionals in the past, or a reluctance to reach out and engage face-to-face generally for whatever reason. So the fact that this is confidential, it's anonymous, you know, you don't have to stick your head up above the parapet to do it. You have that sort of confidentiality and privacy, and that works really well for some members of this community. Lots of people talked about the fact that the app is wholly non-judgmental, that you know you don't have to speak to anybody if you don't want to, but actually the communities in there are also very non-judgmental, and for a cohort of people who can quite often feel judged, this is quite important. It very much creates a feeling of inclusivity, lots of positive references that the app feels like a safe space, so they don't feel at all threatened, judged, marginalized. None of that goes on. They feel very much included and indeed part of the app community. So that anonymity, as I say, it reinforces the feeling of safety and non-judgment. And for those users who want to just like keep their heads down, stay under the radar, but they want to quit all the same, it gives them an opportunity to tackle that quit in a way that works really well for them. And as I said, this feeling of belonging to the community within the app has huge appeal. A lot of people in the LGBTQ community feel comfortable being part of a community. They enjoy that sensation of belonging to a community, and this works well. So the sense of support and encouragement from the community and being part of that and not being alone in this difficult process is really valued by users. And a quote here, I just recommend it to everyone. I would maybe, if I knew or came across like people in the queer community that maybe are a bit skeptical about like online, apps or online communities, that I would encourage there as a safe space. But again, I would recommend this to anyone regardless of how they identify and what community they think they're part of. So this is something for everyone, but it also has good resonance amongst this community. And there you are, a final quote there. I can't afford a smoking dominatrix, so I have the app instead. It's like the next best thing. Thank you.